On the day of your death, every gesture matters. Every word carries a weight as heavy as stone. I am Lucius Eternus, an angel of death, watching as Edward, an 86-year-old man, steps into a cafe. He has no idea that the simple act of asking for a sandwich will change his life forever. With every step he takes, I can feel the years pressing down on him, the burden of losses and memories he never managed to let go of.
In shadows I walk. I've been here from the start. I am the hand that seals fate. The end of every...
The cafe is bustling with chatter and movement, but it's as if the noise fades the moment Edward enters. He is thin, his clothes worn and stained from the years he's lived. He walks with a slight tremor, each step labored, each breath heavy, as if the very air around him is thick and the world is pressing down on his weary shoulders. The smell of fresh coffee and warm bread hits him like a bitter reminder of something just out of reach. Judgmental eyes follow him, and their glances make him wish he could just disappear. Behind the counter is Teresa, the cafe owner, her expression hard as stone. She looks at him with a coldness that cuts. "What'll it be, old man?" she asks, her words dripping with contempt. Edward shrinks back, his voice barely a raspy whisper as he asks for the cheapest sandwich they have. His trembling fingers struggle to gather his coins, the metallic clink echoing in the uncomfortable silence that has overtaken the room. Teresa rolls her eyes, arms crossed, letting out a dry, harsh laugh. "This isn't a charity house," she snaps, her voice slicing into Edward's dignity like a knife. "If you don't have the money, then don't eat." The muffled laughter of the customers around is like a whip cracking. Edward bows his head, trying to hide the shame and desperation that glisten in his eyes. He feels crushed, sinking into an abyss of humiliation he can't escape. His hands still clutch the coins, as if they hold his last shred of hope. And I, Lucius Eternus, see it all. I see how humiliation drapes over Edward like a heavy cloak, how each word pushes him closer to darkness. Yet, beneath his defeated expression, there's something else, a faint spark of dignity, a flame that refuses to die, even in the face of disdain and cruelty. Then, in that instant, as silence tightens its grip on the cafe, I sense something shift, as if the very air shivers. I see Edward's energy field, that invisible essence only I can perceive, pulsing erratically, twisted by the cruel laughter and scornful glances surrounding him. It's as if each harsh word, each stifled laugh, leaves deep marks, scratching at his dignity and causing his light to flicker, weak and unstable. And there, in that moment, I understand that greater forces are in motion, preparing for something beyond what anyone here can comprehend. There are moments when a single action changes everything. And I, Lucius, watch closely as these invisible forces come together. Eleanor, a woman with a commanding presence, steps into the cafe. She appears confident, her steps firm, but there's something in her eyes, a silent story, traces of a past that never really faded away. Barely inside, she spots Edward, Frail, a man bent by age and the weight of loss, being humiliated for simply asking for a meal. Something stirs within her, as if she recognizes a part of herself in that moment. She approaches, and when her gaze meets Teresa's, the server, the atmosphere shifts. Teresa is used to controlling the space around her, but Eleanor doesn't back down. I see how these two worlds collide, one of arrogance, the other of compassion. "This man deserves respect," Eleanor declares, her voice firm, cutting through the murmurs like a blade. Teresa tries to maintain her prideful stance, her stare sharp, yet it's starting to lose its edge. The tension between them grows like a silent storm, and everyone in the cafe seems to freeze, waiting for the outcome of this clash of wills. Eleanor's aura is like a flame, exposing what's hidden in the shadows, Teresa's wounded pride, Edward's silent embarrassment, and perhaps something deeper that not even Eleanor understands. As Eleanor pays for Edward's meal, time almost seems to stop. A simple watch on his wrist catches her eye. Small, worn from years gone by, yet brimming with memories. In that moment, I see Eleanor freeze. I, Lucius, have witnessed this many times. an object becomes a portal, linking lives that were never meant to intersect, weaving souls together across time. Her face changes, surprise, a flicker of fear, as if something buried deep within her is clawing its way to the surface. I can feel her turmoil, like a storm threatening to consume everything in its path. I can see the colors of her aura shift. She hands the money to the cashier, her hands slightly trembling. And as the cafe slowly returns to its usual rhythm, one question lingers in the air, like the faint echo of a distant bell. What does that watch mean to Eleanor? And why does it feel like this seemingly ordinary morning is the beginning of something far greater than anyone here could ever imagine? And I am here, watching it all unfold, knowing that, as always, these souls have been drawn together by something far beyond mere chance. I, Lucius, witness how the threads of destiny weave together in the most unpredictable ways, connecting souls in what seem to be random moments but have a greater purpose. When Eleanor approaches Edward, it's as if the whole cafe fades away around them. She notices the watch on his wrist, a small, simple thing, yet heavy with untold significance. There's a flicker of hesitation in her eyes, an unease she can't quite push aside. With a trembling voice, she asks about the watch, unaware that the answer will shatter the walls she has built over the years. Edward sighs deeply, and in his eyes is a silent, endless ocean of sadness, filled with memories long submerged. At last, he speaks, his voice low, tinged with longing. This watch, it's not just a gift. It belonged to my son, Michael. At that moment, I feel the rush of emotions surging through Eleanor like a lightning bolt. It's as if every disconnected piece of her life suddenly snaps together in one sharp, painful instant. The name Michael flashes in her mind, unlocking the past she tried to bury, the love she lost, the name she whispered in lonely, sleepless nights. Her face changes, revealing surprise, pain, even a flicker of joy, all tangled together. She realizes the man before her isn't just a stranger, he's Michael's father, the man she loved and lost. And then there's something only I can see. The watch on Edward's wrist begins to pulse. Not like an ordinary object, but as if it holds a life of its own, an energy swirling around it, as though Michael himself is reaching out, trying to speak, trying to be heard. With each mention of his name, the watch seems to vibrate, radiating emotions from the past, love, longing, hope. Eleanor doesn't fully understand, but she feels it, a presence between them, as if Michael stands beside his father, alive in the memories, and present in the pulse of the keepsake he left behind. Yes, my friend, many objects carry an unseen energy, an emotional power that often influences, even consumes, those who hold them. As the emotions flood between Eleanor and Edward, Teresa watches from a distance. She tries to maintain her composure, but I can see her facade faltering. For the first time, she sees Edward not as a mere stranger, but as a man scarred by loss, carrying more pain than she could ever imagine. A wave of remorse sweeps over her, and I witness a longing for redemption, a need to see Edward as he truly is, a human being, a soul deserving of respect. But it's Eleanor who makes the choice that will change their lives. She looks at Edward and sees a father who's suffered, a man who deserves dignity. She commits to helping him, not just with a meal, but with a chance at a new life. A place where he can remember Michael without the weight of grief dragging him down. A place where he can find peace. And I, Lucius, watch silently, knowing that choices like these shape destinies, that every decision is like a seed planted in fertile ground, waiting for the right moment to bloom. What is to come will be just as crucial as what has already passed, and I will be there, seeing every step, feeling every emotion. I watch from afar as Eleanor, Edward, and even Teresa begin their journeys of renewal. At first, Teresa struggles with change. I see it in her eyes, in the way she still keeps a certain distance. But little by little, she takes small steps in the right direction, like a tree trying to blossom after a long winter. Edward, who once seemed to have lost all hope, now finds new perspectives. And with Eleanor's help, he moves into a new place, a modest home, but one filled with dignity. A small house where he can try to live again. What catches my attention is how Teresa approaches this new journey with subtlety. In the beginning, it's just a cup of coffee she offers Edward, a small gesture to connect. Slowly, she starts to do more, helping him carry boxes, organizing his small space. I see in these gestures an effort to redeem herself, to make amends for her past actions. There are no words spoken about it, only silent acts, like an unspoken apology. In Eleanor, there's something unique about the way she connects with Edward. Every conversation, every shared moment, seems to be not just about rebuilding his life, but also hers. As if, together, they're trying to find a path to heal the wounds left by Michael. Eleanor looks at Edward not only as a lost man, but as the father of the great love of her life. And even when silence hangs heavy between them, there's a profound understanding, a quiet bridge between two souls who carry the same sorrow. I see this transformation. With each passing day, the lives of Eleanor, Edward, and Teresa become more intertwined, like threads of a fabric slowly being mended. Yet, even in the calm of this new beginning, there's a tension that cannot be ignored. Edward's watch continues to pulse with a vibrant energy that only I can see. With every moment they spend together, the feeling that something is approaching grows stronger. They don't know it yet, but I can feel it. Their fates are about to be revealed. And so, I continue to watch, waiting for what's to come. The sun was slowly setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. From a distance, I watched Eleanor and Edward walking side by side, savoring the tranquility of the late afternoon. The quiet streets seemed to hold all the dreams they dared to share, soft words, brief smiles, memories resurfacing like leaves caught in the wind. Their steps moved in harmony, like a dance, and I felt the weight of that moment. It's rare to witness such peace between two souls. But I knew what was coming, and time, as always, was relentless. As they neared a busy avenue, Eleanor paused for a second, glancing around as if she sensed a presence, perhaps mine. Edward, distracted, didn't notice the danger until it was too late. A car came speeding down, the screech of its brakes tearing through the silence between them. Eleanor tried to react, to pull Edward back, but everything moved too quickly, like a whisper stolen by the wind. I felt the impact before I saw it. Her body hit the ground, and the world froze in a moment of silent agony. Edward screamed, but his voice seemed to vanish into the air, smothered by the weight of tragedy. He rushed to her side, but I knew her time was running short. The car, like a dark shadow, hit the left side of Eleanor with brutal force. She was thrown into the air, and when her body struck the pavement, the muffled sound of bones breaking echoed all around. The cars had struck her ribs, fracturing them instantly and crushing her left lung. I could feel life slipping away from her, each bone shattered, every cell crying out for oxygen. While adrenaline masked the initial pain, I could sense the silent desperation in her body, fighting against the inevitable. She tried to breathe, but her punctured lung filled with blood, and pink foam formed in her mouth as she gasped, desperately seeking air that wouldn't come. Her heart, compressed by the trauma, began to fibrillate, its beats irregular, each one weaker than the last. Her pelvis smashed as she fell to the ground, shattered, with damaged nerves preventing any movement of her legs. Her liver and spleen suffered deep lacerations, blood flooding her abdomen, spreading darkness from within. As her body fought to survive, her hands trembled, and her eyes, wide open, began to lose their light. Death came in waves, a failing heart, kidneys shutting down, her mind struggling to stay conscious but losing its grip. Slowly, the cold of death began to creep in, starting at her fingers and spreading through her arms and legs, like ice climbing toward her chest, squeezing, suffocating. And so, she hung between life and death. I felt each fiber of her being letting go, her life force weakening. Her body twisted, still trying to fight, but it was a losing battle. The sensation of suffocation, the emptiness flooding her lungs, the feeling of endless falling. And then, as everything started to fade, the inevitable moment arrived. I knelt beside Eleanor. Her body was still there, but her spirit was beginning to break free, like a flickering flame in the wind. The cells of her mortal body began to surrender, her heart slowed, and her breathing became a fragile thread, fading with each second. I felt the warmth of her blood slowing to a stop as her organs quieted, one by one, like a symphony reaching its final note. For Edward, it all seemed like chaos and despair. But for me, it was the moment of transition. I extended my hand to Eleanor. She saw me, and in her eyes, there was no fear, only acceptance and understanding. There, amidst the chaos of the street, I felt the silver cord that connected her soul to her body, a thin, vibrant line holding all the moments she had lived. With tenderness, as if releasing a bird to fly free, I gently cut the silver cord with my scythe. I felt the weight of her pain dissolve as her soul rose, floating above the body that lay still on the asphalt. The broken watch on Edward's wrist, the one carrying Michael's energy, pulsed one last time, as if sharing in the sorrow of the moment. I knew that, in that instant, it too was saying farewell. Eleanor looked at me one final time, and I smiled, knowing she was finally free. The human soul is like a delicate thread woven into the fabric of time. And as life continues, I, Lucius, witness these threads intertwining, breaking, and forming anew, patterns only eternity can fully grasp. Today, it was the story of Eleanor, Edward, and Teresa that I had the privilege to witness. When I look at Eleanor's journey, I see more than just her life. I see a beam of light cutting through the darkness, a ray of hope for those who are lost. And her death, it was not an end. It was like a sunset, where the sky, in its final breath of light, is painted with the most beautiful colors. Yes, it was a farewell, but also a new beginning. And when I cut the silver thread that bound her to this world, there was no sadness, only gratitude. Gratitude for her courage to love, to give, without expecting anything in return. And then there is Edward. Edward, the father who, for so long, carried the burden of absence. When he lost his son, a part of him was lost too. But when he found Eleanor, that missing piece sparked back to life. A new purpose, a renewed spirit. Even now, as he stands helplessly watching Eleanor's departure, his heart is not empty. It's filled with memories, love, and the renewal she brought. The pain is real, but it's tempered by acceptance, an unspoken promise that life, fragile as it may be, is worth living to the fullest. As the minutes pass and memories transform into stories, it's important to remember that death is merely a transition. A gateway we all cross, though its true meaning remains elusive until we're ready to step through. And when we do, it's as if a veil is lifted, revealing that life is not a straight line, but a circle, a cycle of renewal, reconnection, and beauty, even in what seems like the end. For Eleanor, her destiny was to find Edward. For Edward, it was to find his own heart again. And for Teresa, it was redemption, a chance to face her own reflection and choose to be different, to be better. Each of them played a vital role, not only in their own lives, but in the lives they touched, a dance of encounters and farewells, of rights and wrongs, culminating in a perfect moment where life and death met and embraced. And I, Lucius, will continue watching, guiding, and feeling moved by each soul that crosses this threshold. Because, in the end, we are all part of this same cycle, this same journey. And when your day of death comes, it will be just another step toward the light that has always been waiting for you. May we all find peace on this path, and remember that every life, no matter how small, leaves its eternal mark on the universe. And my friend, we will meet again. On the day of your death.
In shadows I walk. I've been here from the start. I am the hand that seals fate, the end of every heart. I'm no villain nor hero. I'm the peace amidst the pain, the angel who comes, who takes yet offers love.